to tell. You know, as a former detection of deception person, humbly, and I'm recovering from that, I was like, that guy's lying like a rug, you know. But his response was, not wittingly. This is the Director of National Intelligence. Well, not wittingly. There are cases where they could do it inadvertently, perhaps collect, but not willingly, is what he said. All right, we went through Patriot Act Section 215, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. I don't have enough time to go in there, but they claim, this is what I want to strike on, they claimed, General Keith Alexander claimed, well, this program, the NSA program, is necessary because it stopped 50 terrorist attacks that would have been carried out. The committee came back and said, can you give us information on those 50 attacks? They came back and said, well, we really can't locate that data. Then they asked them, they came out and said, well, it's actually stopped dozens of terrorist attacks in the United States. So without this program, Americans would be killed. So they said, okay, why don't you provide for us the information on those dozen terrorist attacks? His response, or they came back, General Alexander to this day still has not produced those records on those supposed attacks. Enough said. Here's an example. Well, why the heck then, if you're so good and you're just not collecting information on American citizens, if that's not what you're doing primarily, why didn't you catch the Boston bombers? These guys were all over the internet. They were on Twitter, they were on Facebook. We want to engage in jihad. They were doing internet searches on building bombs out of pressure cookers, getting explosives, ball bearings, and I mean, they're all over the place. And yet NSA, protecting us from terrorism, completely missed them. But they got all the rest of us. They're pretty good about that. This is the NSA data center. The one in the United States stores data in what's called a yottabyte. A yottabyte is 1 quadrillion gigabytes. If that, you can get your mind around that one. It's enough, it's several NSA headquarters. It's enough to fill Delaware and Rhode Island with bits and bytes and data. Just to give you an idea how much that is. You need to know this. This is part of it. Google, Yahoo, Facebook, and Microsoft, if no one reads their user agreements, but in their user agreements, they had meetings, these folks, and they said, look, we should be charging people for Google searches. We shouldn't do this for free. But then they said, no, we're getting all kinds of free information on their trends, their habits, what they buy, when they buy it. So they said, no, let's just do this for free. So they put it in their user agreement. When you sign up for Google, when you sign up for Microsoft, Yahoo, and the others, you agree to give away your private data to them. That's how they're able to turn it over to the government. They scan your personal email information. They sell your information to other parties for profit. They can give your personal information to the government based on you signing that agreement, which they claim gets them off the hook, but they can. And they've allowed the government to access their service. So we need to understand that these companies are not innocent parties like they're claiming to be. Now, I'm not downing them. The products are good, but they're not telling us the full truth about how this access was obtained. They came out and said, okay, we're going to be transparent. That we have turned over information to the government 7,925 or so times. So we just want to disclose that. What they didn't tell us was they allowed the government to tap directly into their server and collect everything. How does the government do that real quickly? If I've got the In-Q-Tel slide up, let me see if I do, and we'll get to those characters in a minute. Google was started with, I think, $5 million that came from the National Security Agency. That was part of their initial startup funding. The CIA has entered into a multi-million-dollar contract now with Google, with its In-Q-Tel as the CIA's technological arm. In-Q-Tel has signed a contract with Google to search the internet and gather information to determine trends on what people are doing. That's the term. Now, if I understand the CIA, the Google executives have signed a CIA secrecy agreement, which means that whatever the CIA now does, they can't talk about without the threat of criminal penalties. That's how they do it. But you need to know that Google and others are actually involved in this activity and kind of opened up the back door for this to happen. I just want to hit the high points on this. This is, we know about this one, I think, pretty much in detail. I've got some questions that the IRS asked at Tea Party I won't have time to go into. They're ridiculous. But what I want to stress here is that from 2009 to 2013, when the IRS was scrutinizing and blocking Tea Party, constitutional groups, Billy Graham Association, and others, blocking them from getting their tax-exempt status, the IRS Commissioner Douglas Shulman and his Chief of Staff political aide visited the White House 57 times during that period. More than any other cabinet level official in the Obama administration, not even close. Bush, it only happened one time. Sarah Hall Ingram, and this is an important one, the official that was in charge of the tax-exempt office above the lady that took the fifth, she was her boss. She visited the White House during this time 155 times. In other words, she was there constantly. Now, she met with the Deputy Assistant of the President for Health Policy, Affordable Care Act. And she is now in trouble. I don't know if she's going to be prosecuted or not, but based on emails, she exchanged confidential taxpayer information on these groups, Tea Parties and others, with the White House. We know who they targeted: Tea Party groups, Constitution groups, Christian groups like the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, Jewish groups. Approvals were delayed for up to 3 years. Some of these folks had to spend $80,000 to try to get their status through. One group did pay $80,000. Over 3 years. That's how much it cost them to defend themselves. They fast-tracked liberal groups like Obama's brother. He got it in 30 days. They demanded answers to intrusive questions. I wish I had. I've got the questions up there. I wish I could read them because they're ridiculous. Your Facebook activity, who you talk to on Facebook, the minutes of your meetings, what your political ideology is. Have you had any political people come and speak at your events? If you did, what did they say? What's the wording of the flyers that you hand out at your meetings? And on and on and on and on. This is the IRS asking information that legally they don't have a right to. There's Sarah Hall Ingram, who Obama has just appointed director of the IRS office in charge of the Affordable Care Act. This is the lady in charge of targeting the Tea Party and conservative groups. Now in charge, potentially, of your health care information, Social Security number, health records, and all of your personal and financial credit card data. Same lady. Obama has a habit of appointing people, moving them to other positions. It's kind of Chicago-style politics. Sorry, it just is. Public revelations, IRS Commissioner, I talked about that. Ingram, I talked about that. The White House visitor records, when they were released, revealed that this is how they found that out. A Freedom of Information Act request, 57 times, 155 times. They also revealed that Muslim Brotherhood envoys from Egypt and other countries were visiting and meeting with President Obama. I have a whole bunch of Muslim Brotherhood stuff here. I don't know if we're going to have time, but it is the self-professed largest sponsor of global terrorism of any organization. I will prove it, if we have time, by their own statements, by a document that was confiscated during a raid. Sheikh Abdullah bin Baya was an Islamic radical who works for a fella who's ordered the death of Americans and Jews. His vice president visited the White House, was on the visitor log. So what do? Whitehouse.gov. This is still out there. I just got it a couple days ago. As part of President Obama's commitment to government transparency, really they should be saying the people's transparency, we are providing records of White House visitors on an ongoing basis. What they don't tell you on Whitehouse.gov is on August 2012, Obama requested White House visitor logs that those be made secret and no one have access to them. It was taken to court and it was upheld by an appeals court. So now, the case was brought by Judicial Watch, and I know these guys, they're good folks. Now Obama's visitors are hidden from the American people. Now, I just gave a list of who some of these characters are, and there's 5 other Muslim Brotherhood members that have been there and visited with the President in the White House. Now we can't find out who's going there. This is the people's house. At least it's supposed to be. Why would you make that, why would you classify that secret if it's the people's house and we're supposed to know who's visiting there?
Well, they shut down the tours.
No, they shut down the tours and they were volunteers and they weren't even paid. I know. I mean, it just gets more ridiculous every day. If we were to say this 10 years ago, we'd go, no, you're crazy. Now it's happening. I'm just going to run through this real quickly. All I want to do is hit the constitutional aspects of this, and I apologize for having to pick it up. Obamacare is the largest wealth transfer in American history. It is 1/6 of the American economy. Now again, we're having major economic problems here. This is 1/6 of that economy. Just remember that. They call it a tax, and I think you all pretty much know about that. It is total government control of every aspect of Americans' lives, family, health, life, and death, and all your personal information. I mean, this is serious. Now, we all want Americans to have health insurance, myself included. I used to try to beat on the Republican Party to get them to do that somehow. Well, we all want that. 90% truth. But that's not what's happening. The navigators have no background investigation. The people that are going to be processing your Social Security number, they asked Kathleen Sebelius, could these people be felons? And she said, yeah, that's possible. 2010 Health Care Commission meeting. During the meeting, Obama came out and said himself to the congressman, there's a very good possibility and probability that 6 to 9 million people are going to lose their health insurance coverage. He said that in public on tape in 2010. Kathleen Sebelius knew about that because it was written into the bill. Okay? Well, we all know this lately. He came out 24 times and said, no, with the Affordable Care Act, if you like your coverage, you can keep it, period. If you like your doctor, you can keep him, period. Said that 24 times knowing that the provision was in there that about 6 million people were going to lose their coverage. Now, why would he do that? They're not going to be able to fund the bill unless those people have to come over to Obamacare and pay the premiums to that. I mean, these people are not dummies. These weren't a bunch of morons sitting around a table. These are top-level accountants and financial officers and on and on and on. So was this a mistake? Doubtfully. Your name, address, social security number, private bank account details, employer details, and all that information is going to be stored on the ACA database on you, controlled by Sarah Ingram and the IRS. They hired CGI Federal. We all know about that. I want to make some high points. CGI Federal is a foreign company, and it was a no-bid contract. They put together the gun registry in Canada, and the system was so bad it failed. So they hired CGI with no, and I used to do government contracts, a no-bid contract forbidding American companies from bidding on that contract, and only CGI got it. It turns out that one of the senior executives, and I'm not casting aspersion on her, but one of the senior executives of CGI is one of Michelle Obama's classmates in college. I'm just saying. Okay.
It was their American subsidiary.
Yeah, federal CGI was the American branch of Canada. Yeah, that's the title, the proper title. $658 million to create this website. There's a guy who made this on his own in 3 weeks. It just came out publicly, and he's got his own healthcare website to show. Now, are there any website IT people in here? My wife does this for a living, and is this not ridiculous? $658 million, and the thing doesn't even work. Why?
And on top of that, they used somebody else's script and didn't pay for it?
Yeah, and there was source code in there. This is what caused the glitch. There was source code in there telling people how much their premiums would be and how much their deductibles would be, up to $20,000. And the administration went in and said, take that to CGI, take that source code out. We don't want to know people what the cost is and what the deductible is until they sign up. And it was that removal of source code that caused a lot of the glitches in the system. We know about the economy. I get into this in a little bit of detail. I think we know about this. We owe quite a bit of money to China. If China was to raise its debt on us, its interest 2%, it would send us into an economic collapse. But we have sold out in large part to China. Just remember that. Our total U.S. Foreign debt is $5.92 trillion of the 17 and growing we have now. China and Russia had an agreement where they no longer recognize the U.S. government as the world currency. Anybody know about that? They had an official meeting. Good. Where they are abandoning the U.S. currency. I didn't hear that on most of I heard it on Fox. I didn't hear it on a lot of the other Fox News or a lot of the other major news stations. They just didn't cover it.
There's a Russian lawmaker that's introducing a bill in their Duma, their parliament, to ban the use of the the U.S. dollar. Yeah, that's right, and they've agreed with China. China's doing the same thing. Yeah, banning the use of the U.S. dollar. In Russia.
Yeah, and it's crumbling. Yeah. The U.S. dollar is in serious danger. All right, I want to move through this, and then I'm going to get into Muslim Brotherhood access to the White House, and then we're probably going to have to wrap it up. Got 10 minutes? Eek. All right, let's go through this real quick. I apologize. This could probably be a 6-hour lecture because there's so much in here. Maybe we'll give the other half another time, God willing. But so let me just move through this. I want to go through this. This is important because our government has lied to us, and they're lying to us now, and they continue to lie. Let's go through some of them. Eric Holder, in regard to potential prosecution of the press for the disclosure of material, this is something I've never been involved in, heard of, or would think would be wise policy. Testify under oath. Turns out, Holder personally signed off on the secret monitoring of Fox News chief Washington correspondent James Rosen, who was named as a criminal co-conspirator, and he signed it. Secretly subpoenaed the records of the Associated Press on the AP reporters. He knew about that because he had to sign off on it. More than 100 journalists in the Associated Press offices were monitored by the Department of Justice with his signature approval. He testified before Congress. He had no knowledge of that. Benghazi. Lord have mercy, if I could just get into this. I'm on the Citizens Commission of Benghazi. Now you can read the slide, the things I put in red. I could do a whole lecture on this. We don't have time.